As Sarah, I faced a heartbreaking family split 15 years ago, when my sister Emma stole my fiancé William, just as we were about to get married. Emma, always the family's favorite, revealed her true nature, causing the collapse of our relationship. That day started like any other, filled with the usual preparations for the upcoming wedding. The final details were nearly complete, and excitement filled the air. William and I had planned to meet at the local cafe to review the guest list and ensure everything was set for our big day. "Sarah, I'm so excited," William said with a smile, holding my hand across the table. "It feels like a dream that we're finally getting married." I returned his smile, feeling a rush of love and anticipation. "Me too, William. This will be the start of our beautiful life together." However, while we shared that moment of happiness, Emma, who had insisted on joining us, watched from the other side of the table. Her gaze, which I took as supportive, hid a calculating gleam that I didn't recognize at the time. "William, I'm so glad you're going to be part of the family," Emma said, her voice sweet but with a tone I didn't question. "Sarah has always needed someone who truly understands her, and you seem to be that person." William nodded, grateful for her words. "Thank you, Emma. Your sister means the world to me." What I didn't know was that Emma had begun to poison our relationship behind the scenes. There were secret calls and meetings, whispered words that planted doubts and mistrust. Emma used every opportunity to get closer to William, manipulating his emotions and distorting the reality of our relationship. One afternoon, I decided to visit William at his apartment, a surprise I hoped would be a sweet prelude to our life together. But when I arrived, the scene I found broke my heart. Emma was there, too close to William, their laughter filling the space that should have been ours. "Emma, what are you doing here?" I asked, my voice trembling as confusion and fear took hold of me. William, clearly uncomfortable, tried to explain, but Emma quickly intervened. "Oh, Sarah, we were just planning a surprise for the wedding. I wanted to help William choose something special for you." Her explanation didn't convince my wounded heart. The following weeks were a whirlwind of emotions, with Emma always present, eroding what William and I had built. Finally, the situation reached a critical point. The night before our wedding, William came to my house, his expression serious, deep regret in his eyes. "Sarah, I need to talk to you," William began, avoiding eye contact. "I've been thinking a lot and—" "I don't understand, William, what's going on?" I interrupted, fearing the worst. "Emma and I have developed feelings for each other. It wasn't intentional, but it happened," he confessed, his words falling like stones on my crumbling hope. Tears flowed, and it felt like the ground opened up beneath me. "How could you be this to me? How could you, Emma?" I cried, my gaze fixed on my sister, who had stayed in the shadows until that moment. Emma stepped forward, her expression unchanging. "I'm sorry, Sarah, but it's the truth. William and I are in love." The shock of that betrayal was too much. We canceled the wedding, and I distanced myself from both of them, torn apart and betrayed. The relationship with my sister completely fell apart, the pain and disappointment eroding any bond we once shared. Emma's ruthless act not only stole my future with William, but also forced me to rebuild my life from scratch, far from my sister's shatter, seeking a new beginning where betrayal had no place. After that betrayal, I decided to completely leave behind my old life, severing ties with my family to start anew. I moved forward, switched jobs, and eventually married Noah, a wonderful man who worked as a hospital director. Cutting ties with my family wasn't easy, but it was necessary for me to heal and rebuild my life after the betrayal by Emma and William. Though I felt utterly shattered, I knew I had to pick myself up and move on for my own well-being. In the days following the wedding cancellation, I packed my belongings into boxes, each item a reminder of a past I now wanted to forget. "Do you really have to leave, Sarah?" my mother asked, tears in her eyes as she helped me pack. Her voice quivered, but my mind was made up. "Yes, Mom. I need a change, a place where I can start fresh without constant reminders of what happened," I replied firmly, though inside I was aching from the pain of leaving everything, even for behind. My mother nodded, accepting my decision despite her sadness. "I'll always be here for you, no matter how far you go." "Thank you, Mom. That means a lot to me," I said, giving her one last hug before loading my things into the car and driving towards a new beginning. Over the next few months, I moved to a new city and found a job at a small medical clinic. The work was a welcome change, keeping me busy and allowing me to rebuild my confidence. It was there that I met Noah, who became a beacon of light in my darkness. Noah, the hospital director associated with the clinic, frequently visited to oversee operations and check in on the staff. We met one day when I accidentally spilled coffee on the documents I was reviewing. "Oh no, I'm so sorry," I exclaimed, trying to dry the papers with napkins. "Don't worry, they're just papers, they can be replaced," Noah said with a smile, helping me clean up the mess. His kindness and calm demeanor immediately impressed me. From that incident, we started talking more. Noah would invite me to lunch during breaks, and gradually, what began as a friendship grew into something more. He was understanding, always ready to listen without judgment, and that made me feel safe. One day, after several months of dating, Noah took me to a small park near the hospital. It was a clear day with sunlight streaming through the leaves of the trees. "Sarah, since I met you, my life has been so much better. You make me want to be the best man I can be," Noah said, looking into my eyes. "Noah, I feel the same. You're amazing," I replied, my heart pounding. At that moment, Noah knelt down and pulled a small box from his pocket. "Sarah, will you marry me?" Tears filled my eyes as I nodded. "Yes, I will." Our wedding was small and simple, just the way we wanted, with only a few close friends and colleagues from the hospital. Looking at Noah that day, I knew I had made the right decision in leaving my old life behind. Together, we began building a new life full of love and mutual respect, far from past betrayals. In this new chapter, I learned that despite the wounds of the past, there is always a chance to heal and find happiness, especially when one is willing to leave behind the pain and open up to new experiences and people. In the days that followed, I received unexpected news about my grandmother's passing. Years had gone by since I last spoke to Emma, but she called to inform me about the funeral and requested my presence. Despite the bitterness and resentment, I couldn't refuse my grandmother's last wish. It was a calm day, and I was in the kitchen preparing dinner when the phone rang. Seeing Emma's name on the screen made my heart skip a beat. We hadn't spoken in years. Each vibration of the phone felt like an echo of past conflicts. With a trembling hand, I answered the call. "Hello," I whispered. "Sarah, it's me, Emma." Her voice was cold and distant. "I'm calling to tell you that our grandmother has passed away." The silence that followed was heavy, laden with unspoken emotions. I felt a mix of sadness for losing my grandmother, who had always been kind to me, and surprise at hearing from Emma. "I'm sorry, Emma. When is the funeral?" I asked, trying to keep my composure. "This Friday. I need you to come." It was her last wish for us to reconcile, Emma said, her voice softening slightly. Despite the bitterness and the pain Emma had caused in my life, the thought of not honoring my grandmother's final wish hurt more. "All right, I'll be there," I replied with resignation, knowing that facing Emma and the rest of the family would be unavoidable. "Thank you, Sarah. It really means a lot." Her voice carried a rare hint of sincerity. After hanging up, I sat in the kitchen, the phone still in my hand, lost in thoughts of the lost years and unspoken words. Noah walked in and noticed my distress. "Is everything okay, love?" he asked, placing his hands on my shoulders. "Not really. My grandmother has passed away," Emma called. "I have to go to the funeral this Friday," I explained, feeling the weight of the situation settle in. Noah hugged me tightly. "I'll go with you. You don't have to face this alone," he said, his voice firm and comforting. The days that followed flew by, and soon we were on our way to the funeral. The drive was quiet, each of us lost in our thoughts. Upon arrival, the air was filled with a somber silence, broken only by the murmurs of the other attendees. Seeing Emma brought a knot to my stomach. She approached us hesitantly. "Sarah, thank you for coming," she said, looking me in the eyes for the first time in years. "Of course. It was important to Grandma," I replied, maintaining the emotional distance needed to protect myself. Emma nodded, and for a brief moment, I glimpsed the sister I once knew before everything fell apart. During the service, the priest's words echoed, reminding us of life's brevity and the importance of forgiveness. I couldn't help but wonder if I could ever fully forgive Emma, or if this funeral was just another goodbye. not only to my grandmother but also to any hope of reconciliation with my sister. After the ceremony, as people began to disperse, Emma approached me again. "Sarah, can we talk sometime about everything about us?" I looked to Noah for support, and he nodded discreetly. "We can try, Emma, for Grandma," I said, indicating that I was open to the possibility. We said our goodbyes, leaving the cemetery with a bittersweet feeling of closure and the fragile possibility of a new beginning. The morning of the funeral dawned gray and gloomy, mirroring the whirlwind of emotions swirling within me as Noah, our daughter Charlotte, and I approached the venue. The tension was thick as we walked towards the entrance. Upon arrival, Emma stood out among the crowd, impeccably dressed and surrounded by acquaintances. Her voice rose above the general murmur as she chatted animatedly about her husband. "I must say, I've never been happier. My husband just got promoted a bit and honestly life couldn't be better," Emma proclaimed with a radiant smile. Noah squeezed my hand, offering silent support as we neared them. Emma, noticing our arrival, shifted her tone and turned to me with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Sarah dear, it's so good to see you. And who are these lovely companions?" she asked, eyeing Noah and Charlotte with feigned curiosity. "Emma, this is my husband Noah and our daughter Charlotte," I introduced, my voice steady despite my nerves. Noah extended his hand courteously. "It's a pleasure to finally meet you, Emma. Sarah has told me a lot about her family." Emma briefly shook his hand before turning her attention to Charlotte, who clung to my skirt, observing the scene with curious eyes. "And you must be Charlotte. What a delightful little girl," Emma said, though her tone lacked warmth. Charlotte, unfazed, responded confidently. "Yes, I'm Charlotte. Mommy says it's always important to be kind and honest, right, Mommy?" Her innocent yet direct response momentarily threw Emma off balance. "Oh, of course, dear. That's very important," Emma stammered, clearly unsettled by Charlotte's maturity. I seized the moment to talk about our lives, not to compete with Emma, but to showcase genuine happiness that didn't need to be flaunted. "We're very happy, Emma. Noah has been an incredible support, and Charlotte is a blessing. You know, life has a beautiful way of showing us what truly matters." I sat looking lovingly at my family, sensing the shift in focus from her to the genuine connection we displayed. Emma tried to reclaim the spotlight. "Well, it's lovely to see you're doing well, Sarah. My husband, as you might know, is now the vice president of his company," she said, forcing a smile. "And Noah has also been successful in his career. In fact, he's very respected at his hospital. But what's most important to us is being together and supporting each other. Isn't that right, Noah?" I interjected, unwilling to let Emma dominate the conversation with her boasts. "Yes, absolutely. Success is sweeter when you have loved ones to share it with. We're very proud of Sarah, not just for what she accomplishes, but for who she is," Noah added, wrapping a protective arm around my shoulders. Emma seemed frustrated, her smile strained as she nodded. "Of course, that's wonderful. Well, I should greet the other guests," she said, excusing herself quickly. As she walked away, I felt a mix of relief and triumph. Noah kissed my forehead and Charlotte hugged my leg. Together, we moved to pay our respects to my grandmother, knowing that the true strength and love of our family had shone through Emma's superficiality, proving that what we truly value is mutual love and support, not appearances or status. During the event, my daughter Charlotte, keenly aware of Emma's provocations, openly rejected Thomas, Emma's son, showing her disapproval of how her mother was being treated. The atmosphere at the funeral had grown tense after the initial exchange between Emma and our family. Despite Emma's attempts to outshine us and downplay her happiness, Charlotte, my perceptive 5-year-old, observed everything with a serious and understanding gaze. Despite her young age, while the adults conversed, Thomas, Emma's son, approached Charlotte with the intention to play. He was a lively 7-year-old boy, with an energetic smile that would normally be contagious. However, Charlotte was not in the mood for games. "Hi, do you want to play with me? I have a new toy car here," Thomas said, showing a small toy he pulled from his pocket. Charlotte looked at him and then at me, recalling the words and tone Emma had used earlier. "No, thank you," she finally replied firmly. Thomas seemed taken aback by her response and tried to persuade her. "Come on, it'll be fun. We can race the cars." Feeling the tension among the adults and remembering how her mother had been treated moments before, Charlotte stood her ground. I don't want to play right now. This isn't the right time, she said seriously. Seeing that Charlotte wouldn't budge, Thomas frowned and glanced over to where Emma and the other adults were. Why not? It's just a game, he insisted. Charlotte took a deep breath and with surprising maturity for her age replied, My mom says we should always be kind and respectful to everyone. I don't like how your mom talked about mine. Emma, who had been watching from a distance, quickly approached, concerned about the direction of the conversation. What's going on here, Thomas? Charlotte? Why don't you want to play with my son? Having heard Charlotte's last comment, I stepped in to support my daughter. Charlotte's a bit tired, Emma. Besides, I think there are times to play and times to be serious and respectful, especially at a funeral. Emma looked at Charlotte and then at me, clearly upset but unwilling to make a scene in front of others. Well, I suppose you're right. It is a sad day after all, she finally conceded. Noah, who had also come over, placed a hand on my shoulder, showing his support. It's important to listen to and respect children's feelings. They sense and perceive tensions too, he said, addressing both Emma and those around us. The rest of the event passed with a tense calm. Charlotte stayed close to us, quietly playing with a doll she had brought along. Despite her youth, her ability to sense and react to negativity was a powerful defense, and a reminder that family values, respect, and empathy must prevail even in the toughest situations. Emma, on her part, seemed to reflect on the interaction, possibly realizing that words and actions can have a far-reaching impact, especially in the observant eyes of children. Things took a turn for the worse for Emma when her husband William made a critical medical mistake, leading to his dismissal. Their marriage crumbled under the strain and constant conflicts, eventually culminating in divorce. Emma's life, which had always seemed so perfect from the outside, began to fall apart rapidly after the incident at the hospital. William, a respected surgeon, had made a severe error during a complicated surgery, an error that cost dearly both to a patient and to his career. One night, after William came home late yet again, the tension between him and Emma reached a breaking point. Emma was sitting in the dimly lit living room, her expression somber as William walked in, once more late. William, can't you at least come home at a decent hour? Emma snapped, her voice laden with resentment and fatigue. William, visibly tired and worn out, collapsed onto the sofa in front of her. The hospital has been chaotic, Emma. Ever since the incident, it's been a nightmare, he explained, rubbing his hands over his face. And that justifies neglecting your family? I'm not here to handle all this alone, Emma retorted, her frustration clear. I'm always cleaning up your messes. William looked at Emma, his eyes filled with pain and regret. I'm sorry, Emma. I truly am. I never wanted any of this to happen. I'm trying to fix things, but it's not enough, he said, his voice breaking. No, William, it's not enough. Emma stood up abruptly, her voice rising with each word. Since you got fired, our situation is unbearable. And the rumors about the hospital and you. Everyone talks and I have to bear the shame. Emma stepped back, a tear escaping her eyes. I can't do this anymore. Every day is a struggle. And every day I resent you more. I don't even know if there's anything worth saving here. The following weeks were a whirlwind of arguments and disagreements. The atmosphere at home was cold and tense, and every conversation seemed to deepen their wounds. Finally, on a rainy afternoon, Emma made her decision. William, we need to talk, said Emma as he walked into the kitchen where she waited with 2 cups of coffee and documents spread on the table. William nodded, sensing the seriousness of the moment. What's going on, Emma? He asked, his voice weary. I think it's best if we separate. I've spoken to a lawyer. Here are the divorce papers, Emma announced, her voice firm but her eyes betraying her sadness. William took the papers, staring at them as if he could change their contents just by looking. Are you sure about this, Emma? Isn't there a way we can? No, William. I've made my decision. It's better for both of us, especially for me. I need to find peace, and you need to deal with your problems without dragging me down with you, Emma concluded, her voice sharp but with a touch of resignation. Thus, what once was a marriage full of promises and hopes ended in legal documents and broken hearts. Emma found herself alone, facing an uncertain future without the man she once thought was the love of her life. coming to terms with the fact that the perfection she had always projected was, in the end, just a facade. After the tumultuous separation from William, Emma faced another devastating blow: disinheritance by her father. Our father had always been strict, valuing family unity and social appearance above all. Emma's divorce was not only seen as her personal failure, but also as a blemish on the family's prestige. One gloomy afternoon, Emma was summoned to the grand family house, a mansion that had been the backdrop for many happy moments but now felt more like a courtroom. Our father sat in his study, a large room lined with old books, waiting for her with a severe expression. "Emma," our father began without preamble, "I've been considering the current situation and the consequences of your recent actions." Emma, still recovering from her separation and under constant pressure, tried to defend herself. "Father, I know the divorce isn't ideal, but William and I were in an untenable situation. I had no other choice." Our father looked at her with disapproval, his hands clasped on the desk. "It's not just about the divorce, Emma. It's your inability to maintain your marriage, and now the bad reputation this has brought to our family. I can't allow these mistakes to further tarnish our image." "Are you saying that?" Emma began to ask, dreading the answer. "Yes, I am disinheriting you. You will receive no further financial support from me, and I expect you to manage your affairs without involving our family name," our father declared, firm and final. Emma felt as if the ground had disappeared beneath her feet. "But father, how am I supposed to live? Everything I have was part of what you gave me. You should have considered that before making decisions you knew would dishonor our family. From now on, you are responsible for your own livelihood." Our father responded without a trace of empathy. The conversation ended with Emma leaving the study, feeling abandoned and directionless. The following days were even harder. Without the financial and emotional support of the family, she found herself struggling to maintain her lifestyle. The friends who had once surrounded her when everything was festive and glamorous vanished one by one, leaving her more isolated than ever. Emma tried to find a job, but her experience was limited, having always depended on the family's money. Each interview was a reminder of her lack of preparation, and doors kept closing on her. One afternoon, in a small cafe where she had gone to think, Emma ran into an old college acquaintance, Clara. Clara noticed the sadness in Emma's eyes and approached cautiously. "Emma, is that you? I've heard rumors, but I couldn't believe they were true," Clara said with a mix of concern and curiosity. "Yes, it's me," Emma replied with a sigh. "And the rumors are probably true. I've lost everything, Clara. I'm completely alone." Clara sat down beside her, offering a sympathetic ear. "Is there anything I can do to help?" I don't know if there's anything anyone can do," Emma admitted, her voice breaking with despair. The encounter with Clara was a small comfort, but the reality of her isolation and struggles remained. Emma spent many sleepless nights thinking about how to rebuild her life from scratch, a daunting task for someone who had never had to fight alone. The disinheritance not only left her without resources, but also severed any remaining ties with the family, forcing her to face an uncertain future by herself. While Emma was dealing with her collapse, life at home with Noah and Charlotte continued to be serene and joyful. We shared simple pleasures and enjoyed outings, like a trip to the amusement park, which only strengthened our bonds. It was a bright and warm Saturday, perfect for spending time outdoors. Noah, Charlotte, and I were having breakfast in the kitchen, where sunlight streamed in through the window, bathing everything in a golden glow. Charlotte, brimming with morning energy, excitedly talked about the plans for the day. "Daddy, can we go to the amusement park today? You said we could go soon," exclaimed Charlotte, swinging her legs impatiently under the table. Noah smiled and nodded, spreading jam on his toast. "Of course, princess. It's a perfect day for that. How about we go after breakfast?" Yes. Charlotte clapped happily. Her enthusiasm was infectious, and I couldn't help but smile. As we finished breakfast, we discussed which rides we wanted to go on. "First, I want to go on the bumper cars and then the roller coaster, but the small one, not the big one because it's too scary," said Charlotte thoughtfully. "All right, we can start with the bumper cars," I agreed as I cleared the dishes. Noah suggested bringing a picnic to eat there, making the plan even more special. After preparing some sandwiches and packing fruits and juices, we headed to the amusement park. The drive was filled with laughter and songs that Charlotte insisted on singing over and over again. When we arrived, the bustling park greeted us with cheerful music and the lively buzz of families and children enjoying the day. We started with the bumper cars, where Charlotte and Noah had a blast bumping into each other, while I watched from the sidelines, laughing at their playful and competitive expressions. Then we went on the kiddie roller coaster, where Charlotte, though a bit nervous at first, ended up screaming with joy and asking to ride again. By midday, we found a quiet spot in the park to enjoy our picnic. "These are the best sandwiches ever, Mom," said Charlotte, nibbling on hers happily. "More than the sandwiches, the best part is being here together, don't you think?" Noah remarked, looking at us with affection. We all agreed and spent the rest of the afternoon exploring more rides, playing carnival games, and enjoying ice creams. On the way home, Charlotte, exhausted but happy, fell asleep in the car. Noah took my hand, interlacing our fingers as he drove. "Today was a perfect day," he said. "Yes, it was," I replied, resting my head against the seat, feeling a deep sense of gratitude for my family and the peace we had created. "It's in these simple moments that I truly feel happiness," I added. Noah nodded, gently squeezing my hand. "And we'll have many more days like this, I promise." So while Emma faced turbulent times, we found comfort and joy in our togetherness and the small daily adventures. Each day of tranquility and happiness reinforced the assurance that, no matter the external challenges, our home would always be a refuge of love and understanding. The situation escalated when Emma tried to use her online presence to attack me and glorify her life, but her attempts proved futile. As her support network dwindled following her disinheritance and recent divorce, Emma found herself increasingly isolated. In an effort to regain some control and status, she turned to social media, attempting to construct an image of success and happiness that was far from her reality. What began as an attempt to improve her image quickly turned into a series of posts and comments aimed at discrediting me and my family. One afternoon, while browsing my social media feed, I noticed a series of posts from Emma clearly intended to provoke me. One post featured a photo of her at a gala event with the caption that read, "Sometimes people will have nothing try to bring you down. Fortunately, I always rise stronger and brighter." I couldn't help but feel a mix of irritation and pity for her. I decided to call Noah to share what I had found. "Noah, have you seen Emma's latest on social media?" I asked, handing him my phone. Noah read it and frowned. "Yes, I saw it. It looks like she's trying to provoke you. What do you plan to do?" Honestly, I don't think responding is the best idea. If she wants to create an image that doesn't match reality, people will eventually notice, I replied, although part of me wanted to confront her directly. "Very wise of you, love. Giving her attention would only give her what she wants," Noah said, supporting my decision to stay out of it. In the following weeks, I watched as Emma continued her campaign on social media. Her posts varied between ostentatious displays of a luxurious life and veiled comments aimed at me. However, I noticed that, although initially some people commented and reacted to her posts, those numbers gradually began to decline. One day, while we were having coffee in our kitchen, Charlotte, who was playing with my phone, asked, "Mommy, why does Aunt Emma post that picture saying she's happy?" I was surprised by Charlotte's perception, and it made me realize how transparent the situation was, even to someone so young. "Well, Charlotte, sometimes people show one thing on the outside but feel something very different inside. The important thing is to be honest with ourselves and others," I explained, hoping to teach her a valuable lesson about honesty and authenticity. That night, as I browsed social media, I saw that one of Emma's posts had very few comments and almost no interaction. It was clear that her support network was diminishing. Some people had started to see through her attempts to fabricate a reality that simply didn't exist. In the months that followed, the impact of her actions became more apparent. Emma posted less frequently, and when she did, her attempts to disparage me or exalt her own life seemed desperate and received little to no validation. Over time, her online presence became increasingly sporadic, and her efforts to attack me or glorify herself went unnoticed, demonstrating that authenticity and integrity attract and maintain true support, not the falsehoods projected to impress or hurt others. Despite the challenges, my mother, filled with regret and emotion, reached out to try and mend our relationship. Though it was difficult, I began to reconsider the possibilities of reconnecting, albeit cautiously. One cool, quiet afternoon, I received a call that caught me by surprise. It was my mother, her voice carrying a mix of nervousness and hope over the line. "Sarah, darling, how are you?" Her voice wavered slightly as she spoke. "We're doing well, Mom," I replied, my tone cautious but open. Although the past wound still ached, the sincerity in her voice stirred a longing in me for happier times. "I wanted to talk to you about us," she continued hesitantly. "I know things have been complicated, especially with your sister, and I am deeply sorry for my part in all of it." The honesty in her tone touched me deeply. It was clear she had spent a lot of time reflecting and dealing with her own pain and regret. "I know, Mom. It's been hard for all of us," I admitted, feeling the old barrier start to lower slightly. "I would like, if it's possible, to try and repair our relationship. I realize I haven't been there for you as I should have, especially when you needed me most," she said, her words laden with genuine remorse. I took a deep breath, emotions swirling inside me. "Mom, I fought a lot too. It's complicated, yes, but I believe there's room to start anew bit by bit." There was a silence on the other end, a silence filled with relief and hope. "I'm so glad to hear that. I don't expect everything to be resolved immediately, but being here and willing to do whatever it takes is a start," she said softly. "We can try. Maybe we can meet, talk in person, not just about the past but about how we can build a future," I suggested, the idea of rebuilding our relationship slowly breaking down the walls I had built around my heart. "Oh, I would love that, Sarah. Could you come visit me? We can take a walk in the garden like we used to," she proposed with a tone of longing that reminded me of days before the family conflicts overshadowed everything. "All right, Mom. Let's do that. I'll call you to arrange a time," I said, allowing myself a cautious optimism. "And Mom, thank you for calling. Thank you for listening, sweetheart," she concluded with a sigh of relief that seemed to carry away years of misunderstandings and pain. I hung up the phone, reflecting on our conversation. Although the relationship with Emma was far from repaired, my mother's effort to reach out and open her heart was a step I deeply appreciated. I decided that with caution but with hope, it was worth exploring the path to reconciliation. Perhaps through time and patience we could weave our family ties anew. Not as they were before, but stronger with honesty and mutual understanding. Determined to protect and maintain the peace in my family, I continued living each day with gratitude alongside Noah and Charlotte, dedicating myself to building a happy and stable future, free from the intrigues and toxicity of the past.